Hello everyone, welcome to this video. For those of you who don't know me, I'm James or known as Valkyrie on the channel. I just got back from Ascent Houston and it was a wonderful time. Had a great experience with everyone. Meeting the devs, meeting the community, meeting the players. It was just altogether a really fun, enjoyable time. And I'm glad I went. It was a great experience. I'm here to tell you about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, as said in the intro, meeting everyone out there was a great experience. All of you are wonderful to talk to, interact with. Great people on Path of Steel, people on Path of Silver. No matter who I stopped by, everyone wanted to chat, either it be Grand Archive, asking where you're from. I'm really happy to be part of this community, and everyone should be proud that they've built something wonderful. Devs were amazing to me. It was a wonderful experience. They listened to my comments, questions. They were all humble, down to earth, and it just felt great being able to interact with the people who created the game. Were all here to play. Now, there were some troubles that went on in Ascent Houston. And, you know, it's with the first ever large event with Grand Archive, it's something that can't be avoided. One of the big issues was system going down. We did have major delays with pairings, things like that, but that's not on the devs, nothing like that. It is just program specific issues, so I don't fault them whatsoever. At the end of the day, they still did everything in the power they could to make sure we had a great experience. That's the part. I know a lot of people were complaining about the cramped space at play tables. I didn't personally run into any of that issue, but I don't want to discredit anyone who did. So it would be nice maybe to have a bigger venue or maybe a little spaced out. But overall, for the first ever event for Grand Archive, I think it went amazingly well with them. Now, the point of this video is I just really want to share my journey through the Path of Steel event. It was a wild one. I started making content for Grand Archive because I've always wanted to make videos, and this is a game that I fell in love with in that, so I wanted to put my passion of wanting to make videos and playing a game together. I'm not the best at like creating things, writing them up, stuff like that. So, you know, I created just a couple of stuff, channel died a bit, but now I'm back to hopefully get some more content out there. Hopefully my insights or thoughts can be appreciated by people or enjoyed. But yeah, enough about that. Let's get talking about my journey in Path of Steel. So, day one Swiss, we had 8 rounds going into day one. I was on my Hydro Homie Water Lorraine list. There is a deck tech video about that I made months ago. That is an old version. There is going to be a new updated version coming out. In addition to that, I'll get more into it in the end of the video as well. Another name for the Hydro Homie list is one of the judges I was talking with a lot, who unfortunately had to watch a lot of my gameplay. He did call it Water Balance Allies, which I thought it was a really cool name, so I'm probably going to be changing it to that. Much as I like the Hydro Homie name, because it's Water Allies, I think Water Balance Allies really is a technical term for what the deck is doing. So without further ado, I went into this tournament expecting 3 decks to play against. 1, Wind Allies, 2, Erupting Lorraine, 3, Fire Zender Aggro. Those are the 3 decks I was prepared for, and I tested against a lot thanks to my playtest group and my buddies. We were assuming those were going to be the 3 strongest decks. Even with the Lantern clarification, I assumed not a lot of people were going to be on water. And so that is what I was expecting going into it. Now, I discredited Merlin just because I felt like she is the overhyped waifu character of the game right now. So I was just like, oh, people are going to just try to play her because like her, and she's not really going to be that strong just because people aren't really going to be looking into it. And I ate my words a lot, and I should have been better prepared for Merlin. And the reason for that is because round 1 I got paired against a Merlin, but not just any Merlin. It is a Water Merlin, the worst matchup my deck can possibly have. I didn't practice much against this deck. I didn't think anyone would be taking it, and the times I did practice against it, I went 0-5 against Water Merlin. And it's just my deck does not have answers for it, especially if they get late game incarnate. I just can't do it. So with that, unfortunately, I did go 0-2 round 1 against the Water Merlin. And going 0-2 your first round of your big tournament is kind of a mental boon you're not expecting, especially with all the preparation I did for it. So it was frustrating going off, but I had to shake it off just because the Water Mirror match, we almost went to time, and as soon as we got our results in, 10 minutes later, my next match was starting. On my next match, I feel like something happened where it's just, they gave me the salty run back, and they told me, no, you need to beat Water Merlin. So my second round, I got paired against Water Merlin again, and I managed to eke out a win, a very close one, I mind you, 2-1 for the round count. I lost game 1 and then ended up winning game 2 and game 3 post sideboard. Very lucky. My opponent did not dungeon guide round 3, which is what I'm wanting, and I got them stuck on level 2 Merlin. And with that low HP pull, I was able to pull through. Now, round 3 comes around, feeling somewhat shaky, still 1-1, not wanting to go 1-2 early on, really not wanting to lose much early on. Heading into round 3, I sit down next to, in front of someone, and I was impressed and surprised at who it was. I played against Red Zone Rogue, and I just want to say he is such a humble, awesome guy. I really appreciated playing against, talking with Red Zone Rogue. I buy his mats, watch his content. He's a really cool guy. And so it was great to finally meet a content creator like that and face-to-face with them, play them. Now, unfortunately for Red Zone Rogue, he was on a Fire Xander list, and as I stated, I was prepared and ready for Fire Xander. So I went ahead and hit him with a nice 2-0, cleaning it up, and moving on to round 4. Now, we had a lunch break between round 3. I was feeling confident, 2-1. I was like, alright, I'm just gonna win out from here, keep going. Hopefully I run into more of these fire lists, because it looks like, you know, they're winning, they're doing good. Like, alright. Lunch break's over, we sit down, and I sit down someone who I never have seen in person, but I've heard his voice, and it was Main Deck Dan. And Main Deck Dan, it was a pleasure to meet you, it was a great experience, and you are an amazing player. I'm super happy I was able to play against you in person. Meet ya. And with that, you were playing Fire Merlin. Once again, I am not prepared for Merlin. I was prepared for Fire, but in the end, it didn't matter because the deck was sick you were bringing. The tech, everything. Oh, it was such a cool deck, and I did not have the answers for it. So unfortunately, I ended up losing 0-2 against that deck. Now, being stuck 2-2 is very unfortunate, especially when the cutoff is going to be 6-2 or 5-3 if there's going to be a bunch of drops. So at this point, I'm just like, I have to win out. I have to keep persevering, otherwise it's over. And so being already down your 2 losses that you can afford with halfway through the tournament, it's one of those, the nerves get to you, the frustration, everything. I was trying to drink water. I forgot to really eat much and snack, so the mental game was coming in. It is about a long game tournament. So we're running into round 5, and I see my opponent on fire. And my heart sank a little bit. I was like, please don't be a Merlin deck again. But thankfully, they were on Lorraine. And not just any Lorraine, they were on the Erupting Lorraine list. The one that I was ready for, prepared, and knew what to do against. So another swift 2-0 against the deck that I was prepared for. And moving on to round 6, feeling confident off that fresh win. And I play against a wind deck for the first time, but not just any wind deck, it's a Wind Allies deck, the deck that I knew what to do against. I prepped and everything. Game 1, they got it. Post sideboard, game 2, I got it. And game 3, I had the pressure, Gildas on board with the Frostworn buffed, 8 cards in hand, feeling confident, but unfortunately just between our plays and the clock, we did not have enough time, and we ended up at a 1-1 draw. I was fairly confident that I would be able to get there if I had another couple of turns, But alas, my opponent did end up drawing with me. And at that moment, I felt my heart sink a little bit. It was devastating to not have that win under my belt, and that now my top cut is looking harder and harder with this draw. In the end, we're still in a tournament and we gotta shake it off, so I went ahead and moved on to my round 7. Round 7, sit down with my opponent, talk with them, tell them like, oh yeah, I just drew against Wind Allies. I don't, the deck's fine, it was just frustrating to draw. And they're like, oh, well, let's see how you do here. And they reveal a Wind Spirit, and they were on Wind Allies themselves, and they had some really cool techs in their deck. One did catch me off guard, causing me to lose game 1. They were playing Song of Nurturing, and they just managed to have that on their board of 4 allies when I did a Tidal Sweep Cleave to try and draw 4 cards. So very close match. It came down to the wire. We were in turns and game 3, and I just ended up having that board presence and pressure. My opponent saw that I had lethal and went ahead and gave me the game. So a nice fresh win against Wind Allies did help mentally, especially after that draw, knowing confident boost, knowing I know that matchup, I can beat it, and this proves that I could. So going into round 8 with a record of 4-2-1, knowing I need to win this last match, and I'm just hoping it's against something I practice against, something that I have the knowledge, the cards in my deck are good against it. Of course, it never works that way. Never really does. So I ended up having to play against a Fire Merlin list. Luckily for me, this Fire Merlin was slightly different than main deck Dan's and the other lists in there, and they were kind of more erupting heavy. And with that, I knew exactly what to do. I managed to win in a very close game 3 last hit situation. A 1 damage Banner Knight coming in to deal that final blow was all that I needed. And I finished my 8 rounds with a record of 5-2-1. Now, there were a bunch of drops, and doing the math, standings were posted at the end of round 7. Even if I won, it was a RNG depending on tiebreakers and everything, and if anyone intentional drew above me into the final round, if I would make the top 32 cut. It was very nerve-wracking. Our match finished with like a decent amount of time, 10-15 minutes on the clock, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very nervous. I did everything I could, everything was out of my control. It was just up to tiebreakers and the luck of the draw. After everything, the results were posted, and I went over and looked at the list, and I couldn't find my name anywhere on the list. I was starting to get frustrated, it sat in that I didn't make it, until I realized that it was in not alphabetical order, but instead the order in which you placed, and I rescanned and saw my name sitting at 31st place. I made the bubble cut. The cutoff was 16 points. I was at 16 points, and I managed to get in, thankfully, along with only one person who beat me. Dan did make it into top 32 as well. So I was very relieved. I made it into top 32 cut, and that was what I wanted to accomplish. That is what I did. Was a beautiful experience. I'm super happy. We have our Orb of Regret promo right there. And in addition, this beauty, thankfully, right here. We got the Tide Diviner. So, super happy to have gotten there. And now, day 2 was just icing on the cake. I was on cloud 9 personally myself. I challenged myself to just make top 32 with this deck that I created. Prove to people that not only was I a good enough player, but that creativity and ingenuity sometimes pays off in games like this, because people would not be expecting it. And also, I just wanted to represent some water out there. There was not a lot. And so I feel like we need that. So in top 32, the cut was pretty crazy. A lot of Fire Merlin lists, Wind Ally lists. There managed to be 3 water lists that made it into top 32, which was really cool. We were all high-fiving each other, having a good time. But yeah, so day 2 starts, and I'm not really going to have a graphic for this because I'm going to be honest, I did not do well on day 2. I ended up going 1-3, finishing at a total place of 28th, which is, you know, not bad, but not the greatest. I'm still happy about it. I do want to say, though, day 2, round 1, I ended up playing against Water Merlin first round, which I was like, I cannot catch a break. There's 3 water decks in this top 32. I'm one of them, and the odds of me playing against another one was ridiculous. It looks like we all leaked in with about the same record. But yeah, so it was a great time. It was a fun experience. Everyone at top 32 was amazing. Top 8 was amazing. I chatted with a bunch of those guys up there. All amazing players. Watching the semifinals and finals were hype. I was cheering. And, you know, I'm super happy. Congratulations to Cabin as well. And all the other top 8 players. Now, during the closing ceremony, the devs had huge announcements. It was super exciting. I was screaming. I lost my voice a bit. It's still a little raspy. I woke up the day after the announcements, and it was really hard to talk. But that's how much, you know, talking and yelling I was doing. So, had a blast. But some things I wanted to just touch on. Proxia's Vault. They announced it. It's pretty much a way, instead of banning things, they're going to be creating special regalia that's free to print in Proxy and legal. And these regalias are going to help fix issues they notice in the game. And the first one that was spoiled was Lunette's Staff, which is a water card, which we all know I'm going to be super excited for. So if anyone finds information out before me, make sure you send it out to me. I really want to see it. But yeah, and then in addition to that, they showed us the new set. And they just casually threw out that all 3 new champions are going to have 3 new advanced elements, which is going to be super cool. We're getting Guardian, Ranger, and Cleric. I'm very excited for Ranger, but in addition to that, I'm not giving up on my Lorraine. Still going to keep going strong with that and see how far we could take it. But now, I'm really curious to see what these next 3 classes do. And finally, thank you everyone who I talked with, who I met, and thank you everyone who took the time to watch this video. I do really appreciate it. It meant a lot to me. And I hopefully can create some more videos or content. If you do like this kind of post analysis or anything like that, let me know. Maybe I can do some more. I kind of am just word vomiting at this point. I've never really done anything like this. Do something. And then the deck tech. I will be doing a deck tech for the deck I made. I'm going to clickbait the title. It'll be like top 32 water deck tech. Just to see what I did bring. And already after that tournament, I saw things that did not work in the deck, things that didn't feel right, things that felt clunky. Immediately after day 2, I started editing the deck, adding some cards in that I initially had before the cuts, taking stuff out and switching it. And now the deck's feeling much stronger and better. And I'm feeling a lot more confident against certain matchups now with these additions. So I'll be having an old deck tech in addition to a updated list of where I'm at now with it and how I'm feeling with the afterthoughts. But anyways, thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.